Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another game of interplanetary I Spy going on here. Today we're back to the moon and we're looking back over this image, which is one I went over very recently from Apollo 8, 1968, okay? This was taken obviously above the moon, probably about 200 miles above the surface of the moon. Don't know exactly, it doesn't tell you. And we're going to be going over a particular video I did very recently called Giant Moon Mining Machine, okay? Giant Moon Mining Machine, Lunar Base Structures 2, Apollo 8, okay? And the reason I'm going back over this is because I've been working with a guy called Mike Zoetmulder from the US, who's an engineer, or a retired engineer, who used to work for NASA, and has kindly offered to do some 3D drawings and illustrations for me of some of the anomalies, not just on the moon but also on Mars. And this is quite incredible work. When you see this, you'll be quite amazed at what you're about to see, okay? So I do warn you. Right, so before we look at his pictures, I'll quickly show you. He did send me an email here, I've got here. I won't read this all out. If you want to read all this, you can just pause the video here and read all of this. But basically he worked for 30 years doing design work in high-tech ceramics industry, working on everything from O2 sensors for cars and sonar systems for the Navy to solid-state O2 production and gas purification for NASA. Anomalies have been a hobby of mine since I first saw the Viking lander pics way back when. I don't have Photoshop, but I do have a 3D rendering program called SolidWorks. And it goes on, okay? So if you want to pause it there, you can read the rest of that. There's also this here. Now this I will put in at the end of the video, and you can pause that and read this also. This explains how he constructs these images and how basically he worked on this particular anomaly we're going to look at today, which is the giant mining machine, or giant moon mining machine, for want of a better name, okay? So you can pause that and read that now if you like. Read all through that, and this basically tells you how he puts the different elements of the image together, and whether he decides to leave a bit of information in the image, or to ignore it, or whatever. Like myself, being an illustrator, sometimes you do have to leave things out of an image just to make it clearer and more defined, okay? Especially if a part of the image is a bit vague, you have to decide whether something is an important part of the structure or not, or whether it's something behind or in front or not actually joined. Now, I'm just going to refresh your memories first before we look at his images. Here's the anomaly. Now, that's just been enhanced with contrast. Now, one thing I must get across here is this thing is absolutely enormous, and there's probably about half a mile from here to here, possibly a mile. I couldn't tell you exactly because there's no scale on the image, but it's very, very large indeed. Okay, so this is about half a mile to a mile long, possibly even longer, okay? So let's go back to the raw image, okay? And also the other things in this video I'll be coming back to soon also, because Mike's done some really cool illustrations of those dome type structures as well, so we'll be coming back to them very soon. So here we go. That's just a very basic contrast enhancement there. I'm going to let it play through just a little bit and just show the actual full enhancement coming up now. Okay, and you can see where I've added more contrast, and I've really pushed out the lights and darks here, and I've actually drawn a line round it to give it some definition, okay? Just to make it stand out, because the problem is when you're working on these images on your computer, they look great, and they don't often come across as good when you show them in a video. Because when you actually encode the video, you tend to lose some sort of sharpness and definition. So you've really got to exaggerate the contrast and brightness of these things to actually make them show up adequately on screen. Because you will find, you go back and watch the video on YouTube, because of course they process it after you've processed it. And often some videos can look quite blurry. And this is quite annoying really. And you often end up thinking, I wish I'd pushed that a bit harder, okay? And this is something you gain after a bit of experience. See, this is quite dull, but I've zoomed in further there. We've really got to push that brightness out, because Obviously, not everyone's screen brightness would be very high on their actual mobile device. A lot of people have screen saving settings on there, which means they have the backlight on the screen quite low. So you have to kind of take that into consideration with these things. So there we go, there we have it. You have what looks like a cockpit, the front to it here, and some structure in the centre here, and on the back. Okay, so here's the actual cover image which I did from that clip. Okay, that's the actual cover for the video, which is probably a little bit clearer. And you've got these interesting structures here. Okay, and particularly the front of this thing was very convincing to me. Okay, right, without further ado, let's have a look at what Mike's done here. Okay, because when I saw these, I really was absolutely quite astonished, and I showed them to my wife, and she was quite astonished also. And I'll quickly flick through these, but he's also sent me some video clips of the 3D model that he's made. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to show you this. This is a side-on view. Okay, you've got this cockpit structure at the front, the nose here, you have pipes here, and a central kind of structure. Now, for all intents and purposes, to me, this actually looks like some kind of hovercraft, with a large engine on the back here, and what looks like an intake here. Is that some kind of massive turbine there? Is this, I mean, if it is a mining machine, it would make sense that it would be sucking material up from the front part here and then blowing it through this turbine and perhaps refining it. It may not be a mining machine, it may just be a vehicle. It looks more to me like some kind of hovercraft now. And let's go back to the image here. Now, of course, this is distorted. This is a bit of a funny angle. This, in fact, is on the inside of a crater and is actually leaning backwards. So I actually straightened this out. This has been straightened out, but if you watch the original video, you will see that it's leaning upwards like this at an angle, and the nose is kind of facing up, which led me to think it was a mining machine, because if it was a crashed aircraft, it wouldn't have gone up the edge of a crater. Although who's to say? Who's to say on that? So don't really know. But yeah, let's go back to these illustrations. I'll show you a couple of these, but I will also show you the video clip as well. A part of it, and I will put more clips of these in at the end of the video, so I'll play the whole thing and edit it down properly, so you can see the actual construction and how he came to get these results in the illustration. Okay, from the front, looks like a racing car. What can I say? Highly aerodynamic, highly modern and space age looking. It almost looks like one of these Le Mans kind of racing cars you see, with the highly aerodynamic front to it. That's quite astonishing, And we have an angled version of it here, showing the detail on the back, with this rather large pipe here structure. You've got this interesting roof structure, and you have this interesting thing on the back here, which looks like some kind of, I don't know, what is that? I'm not an engineer. I am an anomaly hunter and artist, but I'm not an engineer. I mean, he's got some incredible details here, but what you do have to remember is that you can only make details from what you can see in the original image, and of course there's possibly another strut here, but this of course may be heavily damaged, this thing. And let's go back to this image again. I mean, you can gain some detail here, but this may well be millions or tens of thousands of years old, and it may be heavily damaged. We don't know. It could be a crashed vehicle, which could explain why it looks kind of mangled up at the back here. Okay, and this kind of looks crumpled slightly here. Okay, and at the front here. Who knows? Maybe it was designed to look like that. Don't know. Absolutely no idea. All you can do with these images is be true to them and enhance them in such a way as not to add details that aren't there. That's all you can do. And that's what he's done. I'm going to play you a clip now. I'll put all these in at the end of the video anyway, so you can really have a proper good look at these. And I'm just going to play you a clip of this now. let's let that play through. Let's go forward a little bit. This one's about a minute long, and it'll show you the different angles. This is using a program called SolidWorks, and you can see here it's been working from that image there, from the enhanced clip, and modelling it very closely to the shapes that we have here, okay? Now, of course, there are probably slight limitations to some of the shapes you can do, because they had to be made up of geometrical shapes and pipe shapes and squares and boxes and cylinders and various curves and straight lines. But he's gone into some great effort here and taken many hours working on this, and I must say I'm absolutely blown away. It's so impressive to see something like this put into a 3D model. Really brings it to life, and it's absolutely insane. And I mean, look at it, look at the design, absolutely insane. What can I say? Mike's done an amazing job here. Okay, so there was that one. And there's also another one here. What I will do is I will edit those down a little bit for you and put them in at the end of the video, okay? So there we have it. The moon mining machine, okay. I mean, my favourite one's this one because it shows it hovering off the ground. And that's what made me think of it being a hovercraft. Because to all intents and purposes, that's what it looks like. But, of course, I'm only speculating here. I've absolutely no idea what the propulsion system might be for something like this. If it even is a ship or a mining machine, it may not be. It may be something else, but it certainly doesn't look like a natural object. It doesn't look like a collapsed building. It doesn't look like a natural set of rocks and topography. This looks artificial. I'm merely showing what's there. I don't know why it's there. It may not be any of the things I've said it is, but it certainly doesn't look natural. And I'm sure a lot of you will agree, especially if you go back over the previous video, like I said. Let's just see the other enhancements here again. It kind of changes colour here, and there we go. And when you see it in that kind of, I mean, the thing is that's quite zoomed in. In fact, it looks better if you zoom back a bit. That's zoomed in a bit far. Let's go to there. It actually looks better, slightly smaller on screen, because, oh, hang on a minute, sorry. Yeah, it looks better slightly smaller because, of course, this is a highly zoomed image, and you zoom in a long way, and objects tend to look blurry and less defined. If you look at it from further back like this, it actually looks a lot sharper, and you can actually see the shapes better, like we have here, okay? So those are in the image. They're definitely there, and you can see it in the raw image. So Mike's done a fantastic job here. Big thanks to Mike Zoetmulder from the US, who I think is now retired. I'll put those clips of that he sent me in coming up in about 2 minutes from now, and I'll also put the text clips in there so you can actually read his notes on how he got to this level of detail, okay? Which are somewhere here. Here's his notes here, but you can't read them very well on the screen here because it just pixelates. So what I'll do is I'll clip that out and I'll put it in at the end of the video, and you can read how he got to this level of detail and how he constructed this particular illustration, okay? Thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you soon.